Congress has been very clear. The law requires you to share these secret agreements. And let me be clear on which agreements I'm talking about. The State Department is usually the lead agency, but at the very least, a part of negotiations with foreign countries, not the Homeland Security, the State Department. The U.S. has an agreement with El Salvador. According to the U.S. law, state must share all international agreements with Congress when requested. And Congress has requested this agreement numerous times. You've so far ignored us. So let me ask you directly, will you commit right now to handing over the requested agreement that the United States has entered into with El Salvador under your watch as required by law?
I'm not sure what you're referring to. The United States, two things have happened. The first is El Salvador agreed to take back nationals, Salvadorian nationals, including the individual you mentioned. These are people that were in this country unlawfully, had MS-13 ties, and they were repatriated to their country.
Okay.
Then there was a group of gang members from Tren de Aragua in the United States, and he agreed to take them into his prison system. The United States, in addition to that, has provided law enforcement funding to El Salvador, which they are free to use any way they want. They can use it for their jail system. They can use it for other law enforcement functions. But that's the deal.
Hello, Patriots. Today on Conservative Mandate, we're exposing a shocking betrayal of America's core principles and the dangerous deals being cut behind closed doors with foreign regimes. Buckle up, because this is about protecting our Constitution, our sovereignty, and ensuring justice for American families. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and drop a comment with your thoughts. Stay with us until the end for critical insights you won't hear from the mainstream media. Patriots, we need your voice in this fight. Together, we'll ensure the truth is heard loud and clear. Now, let's talk about what's happening with El Salvador, President Bukele, and the questionable actions of Secretary Marco Rubio. There's a disturbing pattern emerging, one that threatens justice, accountability, and the safety of American families. Representative Norma Torres confronted Rubio over secret deals with Bukele, a man accused of having ties to the MS-13 gang. Yes, you heard that right. A dictator accused of working with one of the most violent gangs on the planet. Patriots, this isn't just about foreign policy. This is about American lives. Torres revealed that our government sent gang members back to El Salvador without due process, including accused murderers who should have faced justice here in the United States. Why are we letting foreign dictators dictate what happens to criminals on our soil? Where's the accountability for the families of victims who deserve justice? And it gets worse.
Ms. Torres.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, welcome. Thank you for being here. Congratulations on your appointments. With great power comes great responsibility. The responsibility to our Constitution, to the American people, and to the truth. You have built a reputation as someone who stood up to dictators, someone who defended our democracy from foreign threats. And I know that firsthand because you, Mr. Secretary, defended me in the past. When President Bukele of El Salvador targeted me, telling his followers, don't vote for Rep. Torres, endorsing my opponent, and unleashing a campaign of vile threats, harassment, intimidation, and leading an online lynching against me 3 times. Your response, Mr. Secretary, was clear and direct. My home was vandalized with gang graffiti. My husband was confronted in our front yard while we were having a toddler swim party. That child is watching us right now. A man filmed himself planning to shoot me. Our Justice Department agreed with us in a 2022 court indictment alleging that Bukele has a deal with MS-13 gang leaders, receiving support from MS-13 and strategizing on how to better hide murderers from the public, disappearing them. In fact, a woman who dared to lead an anti-corruption unit in El Salvador was just arrested by Bukele's attorney general, and no one knows her whereabouts. You understood what was at stake then. You called it out. You stood with me against this outrageous, dangerous authoritarian. I'm a bit confused with what has happened. You're now shaking hands and cutting deals with him. And you facilitated what our Supreme Court has ruled as an illegal rendition, a Maryland father sent to a torture prison in El Salvador. In my hand, I have evidence here, news reports and affidavits that detail the deal you worked on with El Salvador and Bukele's deal with MS-13. I have here interviews with MS-13 gang members revealing the truth behind Bukele's gang ties. And I ask unanimous consent to enter these documents into the record.
Without objection. Done.
Congress has been very clear. The law requires you to share these secret agreements. And let me be clear on which agreements I'm talking about. The State Department is usually the lead agency, but at the very least, a part of negotiations with foreign countries, not the Homeland Security, the State Department. The U.S. has an agreement with El Salvador. According to the U.S. law, state must share all international agreements with Congress when requested. And Congress has requested this agreement numerous times. You've so far ignored us. So let me ask you directly, will you commit right now to handing over the requested agreement that the United States has entered into with El Salvador under your watch as required by law?
Yeah, I'm not sure what you're referring to. The United States, two things have happened. The first is El Salvador agreed to take back nationals, Salvadorian nationals, including the individual you mentioned. These are people that were in this country unlawfully, had MS-13 ties, and they were repatriated to their country.
Okay.
Then there was a group of gang members from Trinidad Agua in the United States, and he agreed to take them into his prison system. The United States, in addition to that, has provided law enforcement funding to El Salvador, which they are free to use any way they want. They can use it for their jail system. They can use it for other law enforcement functions. But that's the deal.
That is not correct.
No, that is correct.
But those agreements did include giving MS-13 gang members to El Salvador at their request, right? We turned over a gang member who committed a murder in the U.S. without allowing for our judicial system to try him, to give some justice to that family of that murdered victim. But we sent him to El Salvador because Bukele requested him, because it is in his best interest to hide his ties with MS-13 gang members. So do the agreements to send migrants to El Salvador contain provisions saying that the U.S. retains any future control over the individuals transferred?
Well, those who Salvadorian citizens are citizens of El Salvador. They're here unlawfully. Gang association is a crime in El Salvador, and he will face justice in his home country.
We send other country nationals to El Salvador. We disappear them to a prison that is known for torture and inhumane dealings with their imprisoned people. How much U.S. taxpayer money did your department send to Bukele's regime?
And Mr. Secretary, I would ask you to answer very briefly, because we have to move on.
Bottom line is we gave them law enforcement funding as we do for other countries in Central America, and who we sent to them were Trinidad Agua gang members that Venezuela won't take. So we have to send them somewhere else. We don't want them in our country. We don't want these gangbangers in the United States.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah, Mr. Alford.
And it gets worse. According to Torres, Bukele's regime is notorious for human rights abuses, running prisons that have been labeled as torture facilities. Yet Rubio facilitated the transfer of individuals to these very prisons. Is this how we treat human life and justice in America? This isn't just a failure of leadership. It's a betrayal of the values we hold dear. Let's talk about the money. Rubio admitted that the United States provided law enforcement funding to Bukele's regime. That's your taxpayer dollars, Patriots, money that could be strengthening our justice system at home, being sent to a regime with alleged ties to MS-13. Let that sink in. This administration claims to be tough on crime, but instead of handling gang members within the U.S. justice system, they're shipping them off to a dictator who uses them as pawns to hide his own corruption. This is what happens when we lose sight of the Constitution and the rule of law. Torres demanded transparency about these so-called secret agreements, but Rubio danced around the issue. If there's nothing to hide, why not release the details? The American people deserve to know what's being done in their name. Patriots, this is our moment to stand up. We must demand accountability from our leaders. It's time to stop pandering to foreign dictators and start putting America first. Our Constitution, our justice system, and our families. This isn't a partisan issue. This is about protecting the soul of our great nation. If you're fired up, let me know in the comments below. Share this video with everyone you know. Together, we can expose the truth and ensure that America's principles remain strong. Subscribe to Conservative Mandate for more hard-hitting analysis and action plans to take back our country. Let's send a clear message. We will not stand for betrayal. We will not back down. We will fight for America.